It was nearly the end of office hours, and you were finishing up the last of your tasks, carefully organizing your desk to make sure everything was in order. From his own desk, your boss Chan Jungkook was watching you quietly, his gaze following your every move. There was something different in his expression tonight, a hesitation that made him look almost nervous. As you gathered your things, you glanced over at him. He quickly shifted his gaze to the side, trying to play it off. Are you going to stay here? Sometimes Jungkook stayed late, preferring to wrap up unfinished work, and you thought tonight might be one of those times. He looked back at you and shook his head slowly. No, I'm done, I think. You nodded, noticing the unusual tension in his voice. You should go home and get some rest. You have been really busy lately and tomorrow's packed with meetings. You won't get a break. He gave a small nod, his eyes focused on the floor. I will, thank you. Taking his answer as your cue to leave, you nodded back, grabbing your bag and started towards the door. Alright then, I'll be heading out. You were just about to turn the handle when his voice stopped you. Why in? You paused, looking back at him. Yes? He hesitated as his eyes met yours with a seriousness that made you feel the weight of the moment. Could we talk for a few minutes? I'm sorry to keep you, but it's important. Curiosity sparked in you as you nodded and walked back, setting your purse on your desk. He gestured to the couch and you took a seat, still trying to read the emotions flickering across his face as he joined you. What is it you wanted to talk about? Jungkook looked at you, clearly battling some internal conflict. You could tell he was struggling, as if trying to find the right words. Sir? He blinked, snapping out of the thoughts and finally holding your gaze. Actually, I need to ask you for a favor. Your brow furrowed slightly in surprise. A favor? What kind of favor? He took a deep breath, as if steadying himself before saying the words. I was invited to a wedding. It's my ex's wedding, actually. He paused, looking away briefly before meeting your gaze again. And I don't want to get alone. I was wondering if you would pretend to be my wife just for that night. You stared at him, processing the unexpected request. The idea of him having an ex was surprising enough, but now he was asking you to accompany him to her wedding as his wife. A strange mix of emotions stirred within you. You could tell how much he must have struggled to himself before asking you all this. You laughed slightly, thinking he would say this is not true, but he looked genuinely serious. I didn't understand. You want me to accompany you in your ex's wedding, that too pretending to be your wife? He nodded. The nervousness was clear in his eyes. It was as if he was bracing himself for you to say no. I know it's a lot to ask, and I understand if you don't want to do it, but it would mean a lot to me. You leaned back slightly, watching him. You have had a slight crush on him for some time now, but you didn't know this guy had an ex, and now she invited him to his wedding. You already understood why he wants you to pretend to be his wife. Do I have to do this too? I didn't know that getting involved in your personal matters was part of my job. Jungkook looked at you. He didn't understand the real meaning behind your tone. It's not part of your job, it's a request. His voice softened, almost vulnerable in a way you had never heard before. I want your help, and I would be grateful if you agreed. Silence stretched between you, thick with tension. You chuckled dryly, feeling a mix of confusion and exasperation. You want me to pretend to be your wife? But why? You can just go there simply, or is it... You didn't finish the sentence because you knew he would do that for you. She's expecting me to still be the same person. She's expecting that I haven't moved on. and I don't want to give her that satisfaction. His voice softened, and you notice a flicker of vulnerability there, something he rarely showed. I need to show her that I'm happy and over her, even if it's just for a night, and you're the only one I can trust the most. It was a compliment to hear that from him. He trusts you, of course. You have given your 100% to this position and job. You stayed silent, pretending as if thinking, but you also know that you'll say yes. This was a great chance, and he had only asked you for something as important as pretending to be his wife. You know something was in the air. You took a deep breath and looked at him. Alright, I'll go, but just so you know, you'll owe me a big time for this. A hint of relief flickered across his face, and he gave you a small, grateful smile. Thank you, really, thank you. You watched as he leaned back, still looking at you with an expression you couldn't quite read, leaving you wondering if this one night could shift everything between you. Jungkook opened the car door for you. His heart was pounding from the time he has seen you. As he extended his hand towards you, the moment your fingers slipped into his, he felt a jolt, a familiar yet thrilling sensation that he had tried to ignore for months. Tonight, though, with you looking so effortlessly beautiful and elegant, there was no hiding it. As you stepped out, he felt his breath catch. His eyes swept over you in a way he could barely control. Usually he saw you behind a desk or in professional attire, but now standing before him in that dress, you look like you belong in his life beyond just the office. He had always kept his feelings under wraps, convincing himself that you'd never see him that way, but tonight he let himself wonder, just for a moment, if you'd feel the same. He held on to your hand just a second longer than necessary, brushing his thumb over your knuckles before he let go reluctantly. He cleared his throat, his voice was softer. You look stunning tonight. Your cheeks flushed, and he felt a strange sense of satisfaction at your reaction. There was a warmth in his chest that hadn't been there before, and it was impossible to ignore. As you walked beside him towards the venue, he couldn't help but think how natural it felt to have you here, pretending to be his wife, except tonight, the pretending felt a bit too real, and a part of him didn't want it to end. He was completely in love and clear about his feelings. As you both walked into the hall, you took a quick look around before leaning closer to Jungkook. I'll just be a moment, I need to use the washroom. He frowned slightly, looking at you, little worried. Do you want me to come with you? I'd rather not leave you alone here. You gave him a small smile, reassuring him. Jungkook hesitated a little, then nodded, watching you disappear down the hallway. His eyes lingered on the spot where you had just been, and he let out a quiet breath, wondering how he had managed to get so lucky to have you here tonight as his wife. The truth was, he hadn't asked you just because you were his secretary. No, he had asked you because he wanted you by his side in a way that went far beyond work. He was the CEO, the one who was supposed to be in control, but around you it was different. His heart didn't listen to his commands. As he stood there, lost in thoughts of you, of how much he wanted this night to feel real, to make you see how much you meant to him, he didn't notice someone approaching him until he heard a familiar voice. Jungkook, hi, I can't believe you actually came. I'm so happy to see you. She approached him with a bright smile. He forced a polite smile, feeling slightly uncomfortable. Hello, Minnie, congratulations. Minnie stepped closer, her eyes were searching his face. Thank you, honestly, I didn't think you would show up, but seeing you here, it's nice. It means a lot. Jungkook nodded, hoping to keep things short, but Minnie continued, her tone softened as if trying to read something in his expression. I mean, it's good to know I was important enough for you to still care, even now. Showing up here alone, it almost feels like nothing's changed. Jungkook clenched his jaw slightly. Frustration was bubbling under his calm expression, but before he could respond, he heard the familiar sound of your voice. Oh, Yebo. Both Jungkook and Minnie turned towards you, and Jungkook's face lit up as he saw you walking towards him. You smiled, and he placed his hand on the small of your back as you reached his side. Sorry for the wait, you said, looking at him while he smiled softly. His eyes were just for you at the moment, and Minnie could see that. It's okay, perfect timing. He turned back to Minnie, a subtle yet firm expression on his face. Minnie, I would like you to meet my wife. The look of shock on Minnie's face was unmistakable. She opened her mouth to respond but seemed at a loss for words. It's like she never thought Jungkook would marry so soon. It's lovely to meet you. Congratulations on your big day. Jungkook looked at you. His heart was racing, and for a moment everything felt just as he had hoped it would, like you were really his. As Minnie recovered from the initial shock, she quickly masked her surprise with a pleasant smile, though there was a hint of something else in her eyes. It's just so surreal, you know. Jungkook and I were so close back in the day, practically inseparable. We had so many memories together. It's hard to forget those times, right, Jungkook? She said with a soft chuckle, her gaze sliding over to Jungkook. You raised an eyebrow, catching onto her thinly veiled attempt to make you feel out of place, but you weren't about to let her have the upper hand. You leaned a little closer to Jungkook, placing a gentle hand on his chest with a smile as you turned to Minnie. Wow, that's touching, but I have to say, Minnie, it's a bit unusual to talk about all that while you're about to marry the love of your life. I mean, I doubt he would be thrilled to hear you are still thinking so much about your ex. Minnie's smile faltered slightly and a flicker of annoyance crossed her face as she struggled to respond. Jungkook was suppressing a grin, feeling a wave of pride and satisfaction at her response. He took the chance to pull you closer, wrapping an arm around your waist with ease as if it was the most natural thing in the world. I think I got lucky, my wife here. She's got a way of keeping me grounded. He said, smiling down at you, his eyes were warm. He gave your waist a gentle squeeze, the warmth of his hand steadying you and making you feel secure in his hold. Minnie's gaze drifted to his arm around you, and her smile grew tighter as she fought to keep her composure. Well, I'm just glad to see you are both happy, truly, she said with a forced smile. You smiled brightly, leaning your head slightly against Jungkook's shoulder. Oh, we really are. Thank you, Minnie, and congratulations again. I'm sure you'll be just as happy. Jungkook looked down at you, his eyes soft and full of admiration, clearly impressed by how easily you handled Minnie. Leaning in so only you could hear, he spoke gently. Remind me never to underestimate you again. You giggled softly while Minnie couldn't see the closeness, although she was over Jungkook the time she cheated on him. Okay guys, I think I should go. You guys enjoy the evening. You smiled and nodded while she didn't waste time and left. You look at Jungkook. I could feel a bit of tension there. She seemed pretty surprised to see you so moved on. So what happened between you two, if you don't mind me asking? Jungkook's expression softened, but he was over her years ago. She cheated on me, and with the same guy she's marrying today. He let out a small sigh, shaking his head slightly. It was a rough time, but I'm better off now. Tonight just proved it even more. You gave his hand a gentle squeeze, feeling a mix of admiration and sympathy for him. Jungkook glanced down at you, his gaze softened. So you wanted to show him that you have moved on. It was a great plan. Seems like she realized it was her loss. He chuckled slightly at her words. Thank you so much for your help. I couldn't have asked for a better partner tonight. I don't know, I try my best to help you. He smiled, but you could see there was something in his eyes, as if he's trying to tell you something. Let's go from here. You looked at him confused. You're not going to watch the ceremony? My work here is done. We don't need to stay here any longer. You smiled and nodded, as you wish, but since I'm hungry, you can treat me to a nice dinner. He laughed softly, clearly amused by her straightforwardness. As you both left the venue, the atmosphere around you lightened, and the city lights began to glow as dusk fell. After a delicious dinner filled with laughter and easy conversation, you both settled into a cozy corner of the restaurant. Jungkook shifted slightly, his expression becoming more serious. You could sense that he had something important on his mind. Is everything okay? You finally asked him. After noticing him the whole day today, he looked like he wanted to say something. He took a deep breath, meeting your gaze with an intensity that made your heart race. Ryan, I need to tell you something I've been holding back. You nodded. You were curious as you leaned in closer, encouraging him to continue, though your heart was beating fast. When I asked you to pretend to be my wife tonight, it wasn't just about the ex. It was because I wanted you to see me differently. I've liked you for a long time now, and tonight, seeing you stand up to Minnie, seeing you smile and be yourself, it made me realize that I don't just want you as a partner for a night. I want you in my life for real. Your breath caught in your throat, surprised, mixed with a flutter of excitement. Jungkook. I know this sounds crazy, but I can't help how I feel. You bring something out in me that I didn't know I needed. You make me feel alive. It's not just about pretending, it's about us. I want to build something real with you. You were taken aback, your heart was racing at his confession. Jungkook's eyes searched yours, waiting for a response, his vulnerability laid bare before you. I didn't know you felt that way. I mean, I've liked you for a while too, but I didn't think. He interrupted you gently in the middle. I know it's a lot to take in, but I wanted to be honest. You deserve that. I wanted to know that you are not just a temporary fix for me. You mean something, Ryan, more than I can express. Felt a rush of warmth wash over you. Your heart swelled with affection as you smiled softly at him. Jungkook, I'm really glad you told me. I wanted to say something too, but I was afraid of ruining what we have. He smiled, and you could see a sense of relief flooding his features as he reached for your hand, intertwining your fingers. So, what do you think? Can we start something real? Nodded, your heart full of hope and excitement for what was to come. Yes, let's start something real. As you both sat there hand in hand, the world around you faded away, leaving just the two of you and the possibilities ahead.